Well, Tim, what a pleasure to have you by my side. Or actually, if we're specific about this, I am by your side because I stepped in to replace old Desi Wezzy.
You did indeed, and it's a pleasure to have you here, Em. Of course, as always, we don't get too many chances to share the mics together, but it's always a joy when we do, and hopefully this game's going to be a joy as well. Black Dragons NIP underway on Lair, and I've got a feeling this is going to be a close one. When they played in the regular season, it went to overtime. It was 8-6 NIP. They got the win. Each half was 5-1 halves, so they really went at each other.
Well, we'll see how it starts to shake out, and it's a fight on Rocket stairs immediately. Makina is removed. No more Deimos, and that's quite a powerful removal when you're looking at all the soft that can sort of get you up underneath this site itself. The pressure here towards Rocket. They're holding on to rafters for now. And Wizard did take a lot of damage, but being able to get out of there, it's a very awkward position to have to push up into, as proven by the Deimos who suffered on the other side. Building time, buying as much as they want. Pino can play this. I mean, at this point, they're getting the taste of the pressure. They're not really going to utilize those, try and stop any of this approach. Otherwise, it's just sitting, waiting, wanting to swing. Another smoke canister gone, and they deep dived themselves further there, Tim. They really want to take this fight here. Waiting for somebody to try and appear somewhere.
Looking to get some control here. Pino's going to step out and manage to find himself one with the shotty. NIP looking solid on the defense so far. 5 versus 2. Rare manages to get the first for Black Dragons. Will it be the last? No. Muzi comes in and manages to find another. A real flurry of kills in the early round, but the first 2 minutes here, there's still a minute left on the clock. Rare has a little look at putting the diffuser down, but it's not going to work out. Fantasy manages to find that kill, and right now, you feel like it's a matter of time until NIP wrap up the first, but with Muzi on the board, you just never know him.
No, I think that's always it, really. We know the sort of history of a lot of these players, but you're up against Fantasy, you're up against Hates, and you're up against big challenge. 40 seconds, plenty of time. Oh, we'll see none of it, though, as Hates takes the swing, gets rid of Muzi, and gets them off to a strong start there. It was sort of built up. Obviously, they got that early first engagement. They got it very clean as well. If you think about if they hadn't, and that was a 1 versus 1 or a 2 versus 2 at the end, you potentially have a very different round on your hands.
Yeah, you certainly do. I think Black Dragons need to be careful that they're not out of this one before they have a chance to get into it. Definitely winning some of these earlier rounds is going to be a big help for them. They don't want to go down the road they did last time. Like I said, it was 5-1 in either direction. It's not something they want to have to chase back on there. I don't think it's certainly not, we're 1 round in. It's not the end of the world yet, of course. Yeah, I think I get the feeling with NIP at the minute that the chances against them are going to be kind of few and far between. We've seen a real resurgence from them this stage. Of course, lots of up and down performances, and in fairness, more down for NIP. The last time we saw the reality, the last time, this is NIP. The NIP, the last time we saw them at an international event was SI24. Like that's crazy when you think, this is an SI winning team from 2021. Like, they've had some unreal years, and then the last year or so, it just seemed like the wheels came off a bit, but they must have found themselves a good mechanic, because they're back on track.
It's like a really, really strange way of looking at NIP's most recent season. Is they were able to get themselves to this point. They were able to sort of, keep fighting and push towards this playoff situation, towards those very precious SI points at the end of it. And then you look at the results, and it's sort of like really mixed bag, right? They got absolutely taken to task by both FaZe and W7M. It was a 7-0 against FaZe, and then a 7-2 against W7M. They were just obliterated back-to-back, unfortunately, as well. Then they were able to just get themselves up on the final day against 9Z, but, you're looking at long, drawn-out games against Loud, against Loss, against, even the original, as you said about this, against Black Dragons. They've just not had an identity of a team that hits international stages consistently or hits SI consistently, which is a very strange thing to say about a team that you and I have been in the room when they have won SI in a very different form, obviously, but still, that history is something that you don't shy away from world-beating teams.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And they seem to have certainly got themselves back on top. You know, we've talked about fantasy at length over the years as well. Such an exciting prospect probably a couple of years ago now, and then has gone through that lull with NIP as well, got picked up by NIP and has had a kind of a quiet start there, but we're starting to see fantasy come into his own a little bit more again now as well, I think, and hopefully, you know, he's going to be back to his brilliant best over the next couple of years, and something else that we can enjoy. And fantasy always feels for me like the sort of player that NIP can build a team around realistically. He's just, you know, he's such a talent when he gets going. And sometimes you just got to keep a little bit of a tight leash on him. I think, you know, he is one of those players. I think of maybe somebody, I'd maybe compare him to somebody like Mowgli in Europe. You know, if we've got any viewers maybe a bit more familiar with the ML. Fantastic gunner, huge talent in the game, you know, and sometimes just gets a little bit crazy, a little bit out, and it's like, you know, gets caught out on their own or something like that. And you know, when they reined in and harnessed a little bit more, absolutely deadly. And we've been seeing that from Mowgli through this stage, and I think a bit more of that from fantasy as well. So
I think it's also, I guess, on the other side of that, when you're looking at the sort of positions of some of these players and the transfers that we've had recently, it's been very individual transfers around a lot of these teams. Black Dragon's obviously getting Flastry from you know, a roster that became Loud that has struggled when they got on to sort of play without Flastry. They've found new ground, they've found new places. We sort of get a taste of the board here. NIP, now I think they jumped 3 places on that final play day, but just the cross section of these sort of results, those 2 losses from NIP there, that was to the 2 teams above them. So it's not as bad as it looks, but they were also pretty bad losses. It was, you know, 2 rounds over 2 games, and you don't want that much of a divide between your 3rd place and your 2nd and your 1st place, even though there's that separation, but because eventually they'll have to fight each other. And just look at the round difference there, Tim, the top 2 versus everybody else.
It tells a story, doesn't it? It really does tell a story. You know, you're looking at unquestionably 2 of the best teams, 2 of the best rosters in the world, and I think I would extend as far as to say, particularly in FaZe's case, W7M, yes, but maybe just need a little bit more time under the belt as a roster before I start saying, you know, anything quite this lofty. But 2 of the best rosters that we've ever seen in Siege, realistically. W7M certainly with the potential to be one of the best rosters we've ever seen in Siege. I say that because obviously Paolu's only just come on board, and, you know, maybe we need a couple more wins under our belt before we're talking at FaZe's kind of level. But yeah, FaZe, you know, absolutely unquestionably one of the best rosters that we've ever seen in Siege. I'd put up the previous W7M roster, the current FaZe roster, and then, you know, you're going back towards probably, you know, sort of the Penta G2 roster days. Some huge names, and it's no surprise to see, you know, top of the board, 6-0. They've had a few losses, but just phenomenal round difference, and it just goes to show, you know, the sort of dominance that they are winning with in what is an unbelievably deep league, essentially. You know, you've got those few teams at the bottom, that have been scrapping around a little bit, but everybody from Loud upwards, the top 7, honestly, any of them could have finished top, and I'd have been like, yeah, okay. It's just crazy good league.
Well, you get the comparison there of a couple of the sort of top performers here, and obviously we'll be back in the game in just a moment. You can tell the players are playing on LAN. Hooray! It makes the competition very exciting, it makes it very intense, but it also means that on the new build we have to make sure things are working properly, and well, getting that sorted sometimes. Rarely is a teething issue. I'm going to say, but it's a long day of Siege potentially we have ahead of us, a long few days, because this region, I think, is sort of playing staccato to every other region. It's a little bit off the beat. It's a little bit sort of short and sharp, where I think everything gets settled over the next, like, 3 days, as opposed to the others, which have had a little bit of a week, I think, between all of their games and everything. could be wrong about that, but I know it's quite a short, sharp schedule.
Well, we'll be getting back into this one, of course, as soon as we can do. Just having a little bit of a tech wobble, and as can often be expected. This is first day of LAN. This is what we've got to remember.
First day of LAN. This is
first day of LAN. This is what we expect.
Yep, and you know, we've all been around the block. We've all been doing this for a long time now. I remember you and I in Leicester, however long ago. 8 years? 9 years?
A long time ago, I had hair. No, I didn't. I never did.
It was something like that. It was before Lynx was even born, I think. Lynx and Jesse. They were just possibilities. But I will hopefully get back in just a moment. Now, if... Oh, there. I say it, and it happens. Lobby ready. Perfect.
Willing it into existence,
I mean, sometimes we just have to waffle.
Press the button.
Tim.
Just go to press the button, proving that the caster start button exists there.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to all the other casters. It's like how Parker was like outing, not outing the group chat, but referencing it yesterday on broadcast. I've been getting all the messages of the other casters being like, I've told them about the button. You idiot. Now they know. We're back in. Back in. NIP got that first defense. They got the opening kill and just sort of rode out the rest of the round. It was a very aggressive approach from that point onwards. So instead, we hurtle our way down towards the basement. The double shield ban from NIP, we haven't really talked about those too much, is going to be a sort of de facto for a lot of teams. However, the Kaid is probably the more of the limiter here, especially with there's at least, I think, 2 very powerful hatches that play on towards this site. And, you know, when you're looking at this mirror position as well, with the sort of harsher limitation against it, try and put pressure in. The walls on the back end of site, you assume they might put some pressure on towards them with the Hibana, but it's the hatches that are the sort of danger zone.
Right, let's get back into some action then. We've got a shield on the board, always one to watch. It's going to be Music bringing along the Blackbeard. We have had the other 2 banned out, Monty and Blitz, with the NIP bans taken away from the attackers. I think we'll probably see that Blackbeard added to the list on that round 4 ban. If you're going to take 2, well, you might as well take 3, because your 3rd ban's not going to do much unless it's something like a Deimos or a Dockerby, I guess. But for the time being, Music is going to try and take as much advantage as possible. Blackbeard looks like it's going to be used to try and take some map control, get in there, bully those defenders away. We do have quite a vertical presence here from the defenders up above the site as well. It is going to be basement that we're attacking into, so they're going to need to make sure here, Black Dragons, that they're getting everybody cleared out. Currently, it's got Hits and Fantasy are the 2, joined by Cons now as well.
Ooh, caught in the middle of throwing a Kiba, and not really worth the life trade out there. Hornet did take a lot of damage with a sort of challenge onto it, but this is the sort of exchange. As I said before, the last round came down with 2 versus 1 that, if there was a trade, it could have been different. Here, they do get that revenge on towards the IQ. There's been a bit of time that's passed, and, well, as the 7-second marker of a trade disappears, so does the chance of NIP and Black Dragons to either take advantage of that and pressing onto it. The slow reclaiming of the verticality, the slow sort of approach here on towards the Cons position. And ready to want to swing against a Blackbeard, but how many of these smoke canisters are they going to use to buy their time? Second too late there, Blackbeard.
Still don't have control over the rest of the map here, Black Dragons, and with a minute left to go, that's going to become a problem for them. Hates is still up on that top floor and could well drop down for a flank at any point. Some of the That's just too easy. Con scores up. Just Moosey knows better than that. Moosey's been around this game for a long time. Can't be giving himself away. Wizard manages to pick up rare. It wasn't the kill that we thought it might be on our screen there, but it does get a job done for NIP still. And we've got everybody back in sight now. Hits was actually taken out on that top floor, so flank was unsuccessful, but NIP aren't going to mind that because he's wasted a lot of time. Only 25 seconds left to go, This is tough for Black Dragons.
Well, even tougher. Too impossible and done, actually, as it very quickly sweeps up its way at the end there. And, you know, for how things sort of got taken away there at the beginning, the early pick, then sort of traded out not long later. It was, I think you put it, quite an aggressive vertical hold. They had the mirror dedication. They had the keepers playing up there. But still, even getting rid of his army in such a good position. My conspiracy theory, Tim.
Second round timeout.
Tim, I know I keep posting it in the group chat, but I need an analyst. I need someone smarter than me to ask a pro to prove I'm right.
So the theory you've got
my theory
is that we're seeing a lot of second round timeouts, and you feel that it's to do with the new banning system.
Entirely driven by the new banning system, because and it's sort of this argument of what is comfortable in a game of Siege and at what point are things comfortable to do in a game of Siege, right? And obviously with the new banning system, from the jump in the old series, you had the whole system ahead of you. You had the entire game put forward ahead of you, right? And you just played it out. And at some point, you would use only a singular bit of momentum to change and shift your phase of whether you're going to do it. Now you have 4 different moments of momentum. You have the first 3 rounds, the second 3, third 3. We've got 4 quarters, essentially. So you have to think about, okay, when can we have the biggest impact in the quarter? Think of it like a runner in some regard. This is my conspiracy theory. This could all be wrong, but I'm going to go into it because I have an opportunity to. You could have it in the second half, but then you risk the game getting a little bit away from you. Some teams do, depending on if they go 2 down or whatever. But here, they have the opportunity to talk about, what they could do here to just try and beat this current set of bans, and then also extend it into the second half. And the coach can have an absolutely positive impact on that, which they couldn't before. You could discuss the bans in sort of, in a lab and work things out, but they get an active thing of just looking and going, oh, there's a hole. Let's exploit this hole for the 1 free round and then try and put the pressure onto this instead. I don't know. Just hear me out, everybody. I'm right.
I've heard you, Em. I've heard all that I need to hear. I'm with you.
Yeah. And
I'll back you.
And you could do it in the second half, fine, but at that point the game might be too far gone, and that other bit of momentum that is just game momentum could be too far away from you to have such a direct and powerful impact of a single switch and a single play against it. Anyway, that's my piece. Analysts are wonderful, wonderful big brains on the desk who are ex-pro players or ex-coaches and analysts. They could be the ones to verify this stuff. I'm just play-by-play, and I do my best.
We're going to get excited every single time we see a round 2 timeout. But round 3 is underway. NIP 2-0 up. They're going to be taking the mid-floor site this time. Let's have a look at how many they've got on the top floor. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 that are holding on above. Another aggressive vertical hold from NIP that Black Dragons need to break down. We have seen successful plants when you've got numbers stacked on the top floor, but they don't have the utility. You'd normally see Yings, Smokes, Sens in there to create that space, to create that lack of visibility for those top floor defenders. This is far too easy. Fantasy manages to pick up Machina there. The trade is going to come too late. Rare manages to get the kill. 4 versus 4. NIP still holding on from above.
Yeah, they've sort of got themselves in this 4 versus 4, but when you're trying to wrap the pressure on this side, it's a bit awkward. Obviously, you can get the breach onto security terrace, but then you still have to get the verticality. They can still sort of play the backline. Pino does find Rare as well, which is the Blackbeard. Again, just an easy take, but Moosey on towards that air jabs onto Nobad. Does find Cons, does keep the sort of body balance back and forth, but An engagement around the top of green. Are they going to get the second follow through? There's a bit of support coming through them. I don't know about Wizard on the shotgun. Muzi doesn't need to know. Swings back, pulls away. Okay, 30 seconds, but they don't have the kit. That's the problem right now, and they're about to run right into a shotgun. There's the swing round, but he can't cement it. It's flashes and blinds against the Warden. No, that's a sacrifice, but there's a second.
Well, there we go. Another round for NIP. Looking pretty comfortable at the minute. That's going to be the full rotation for them, 3-0. I will keep referring back to that regular stage game. For now, it was 5-1 each way when these two met in the regular stage play. I will have a look who it was in favour. It was 5-1 in favour of defence. So it's kind of just continuing as it was previously. It was the opposite way around. Black Dragons went 5-1 up and NIP were able to bring it back. This time it's NIP running away with it, so we're going to see whether Black Dragons has that same sort of resilience or not. You've got there's so many interesting little factors between these teams. Of course, Muzi, Pino both on the same roster for the longest time, one SI together, now separated on opposite sides, and it is right now Pino who is coming away with the lion's share of the bragging rights at the minute because NIP are cruising. Interestingly, they do bring out the Ying ban. I kind of said I might expect a Blackbeard ban and just take the shields out of it completely. But in all honesty, given the way that the first few rounds have played out, I like this from NIP because it's kind of saying, do you know what? Blackbeard's giving you nothing. We've dealt with it every time you've brought it. Rare brought it last round. We saw Muzi on it the round before. It was just easily dealt with. So why waste the ban on it? You want to bring Blackbeard? Keep bringing Blackbeard. He's not been getting you any rounds. And something like Ying, you know how much value is in there. So I think that's actually great from NIP.
3-0. And can they just drive this to a bit of a quick finish here? Or is it just going to turn into a very defender-sided lair? It's sort of... we've had a lot of back and forth games, I think. We've had a lot of two-sided games. I don't know if it's just a shift in the sort of momentum of how the playoff system is working. I don't know if it's just the meta at the minute. I just don't know how people feeling. But it seems to be a bit of a shake-up in terms of just heavy 5-1 to 5-1s, and rather than a lot of traded rounds, there's some attempt at a draw of pressure towards the sort of reception area and waiting for seeing if somebody wants to try and drift their way up towards the rocket. But otherwise, it seems like Black Dragons are not just charging themselves in fruitlessly. There is a chance at a close swing regardless of the route that they take. I say as they get control of ops, roll the ROU out towards the mirror window that's happy to sort of sit and watch, but without anything removing that, without anyone to play behind it like a glass, it's just kind of a deferral. The Selma will break. The position of Pino is very delicate. He's tracked and he's not quite blinded though. Gets one as Flastry finds Fancy in the same second for Pino. Pushes into the fire to try and find a third, but just held on to him.
Wizard just going to be dipping away from that fight on the doorway for the time being. The thing is now NIP, they don't need to overcommit here. Like you say, they've had their aggression, they've had their fights, they've got the kills. Look at the utility they've taken off the board. The Capitão and the Deimos gone. It leaves them with the sense. Yes, that's now going to be the tip of the spear when it comes to that execute. I was going to say, I'm not sure Rare's going to survive that long. He does manage to take down Pino, but about 60 HP damage done back in return. So NIP can kind of just play a game of attrition at this point. They can wait for the challengers to come, and they can just chip away at the health, because really, without Rare now, without that sense, if they lose Rare, they've got nothing to plant with realistically, the Black Dragons. So Rare just became real key, and this is not looking good. They're going to give it away. Flash trade. Rare taken down. It's too easy for Wizard M.
I mean, just keep spinning, just keep shooting. What else can you do here? The man was spinning around, firing bullets powered by them to then just get his next kill. And they're running amok, Tim. They're running amok.
They really are. Serious lack of intel from Black Dragons there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have a quick look and see how over the last, let's say, 180 days, this map has been going across all the regions. because there's a solid level to the performance of it. You can see that Black Dragons are trying a couple of different things, right? They're trying to fast the spring, trying to slow, going for the vertical, not going for the vertical. They've sort of moved around, but all of it, I would say, has never pressured the back line of the site. The closest we got towards pressure onto the site was when an RIU gadget rolled its way across there in that round. And that's about it. And, even on the sort of tertiary, it feels like Black Dragons are maybe focusing on too much of this. It's a big map. There's a lot of space, a lot of jobs, and a lot you have to do. And I think Black Dragons are getting a little bit lost in all of the different jobs they've got to find. I don't know. Maybe more conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I don't think so. Fantasy's going to be ringing on the Scorpos. Obviously, we have, Des often talks about the high fantasy of Scorpos, kind of lines up with the Oryx as well. Having that big teleportation play where you hide the shell away and then you change to it in the middle of the round and you come down, you get 2 or 3 kills on the flank. It's very rare. We'll keep our eye on that, but more often than not, it's used for 2 things. One, for the utility it brings. A bulletproof shield, a bulletproof camera, and impact nades, effectively. The shield and the cam, yes, have to be positioned together, but it is a lot of utility brought along by Scorpos. And you've also got that extra HP as well, so you've almost kind of got a little bit of dock in there or similar. So, really, really popular. Much more likely to see those kind of uses from a player like Fantasy, because he's just going to get aggressive, look to take the fight, and then switch back to site and renew his HP more than likely. He's playing on the first floor for the time being, so he's going to be keeping himself again, much like they did last time. Hits is up on second floor, Fantasy on the mid floor, everybody else in the site, and he's just going to be looking to take gunfights and burn time.
It's also worth sort of commenting now at this point, before I accidentally jinx anything. Wizard 6-0 has not died. There was a rehost after round 1, so I don't think it includes the round 1 stats to have a quick look over. That would put him 8-1 across all the rounds played so far. Okay, 8-2 because I said something. My bad. Because Pino gets just a double fed to him. That lack of information, Tim, that you talked about before, it's just haunting them.
I can't believe that you jinxed Wizard like that, to be honest.
I'm so sorry.
I'm
so sorry.
We'll move past
gone.
that. 4 versus 2 as Hits manages to pick up a nitro onto Muzi, and Black Dragons right now seem to be falling apart at the seams. It's all crumbling down around them. This is their chance in the playoffs. They've got to get these wins to push themselves forward and look for as high a finish as they can. They managed to get something going. Mechina manages to take down Pino. 2 versus 3, 29 seconds left to go. Hits manages to pick up Flash Street, but here we go. Mechina 1 versus 3 becomes a 1 versus 2, becomes a 1 versus 1.
All right, for everybody else seemingly lost in the reeds, Mechina. He has a machination of winning this round out, but all revealed on a bulletproof. His position is well known. It's 10 seconds to try and find the fight rather than go for the plant itself. He can't quite recollect the kit, but they have just got out of there. Close on the fight either side, and he has just run out of time. Cons is able to pick up the end of that, but the closest it's been, Tim, and it had to be a triple to get there, and a quad if it was to be pushed into their favor.
Yeah, and this is the problem for Black Dragons. You could look at it and think, oh, maybe there's a couple of rounds they could have got there. But it's rounds on the back of what, a 1v4, a 1v3.
Yeah.
You're not really going to pick those rounds up. So, I wouldn't, even though it kind of looks like it was close, it wasn't really close. Cons was in a position, they had all the intel that they needed. NIP, he was never going to win that fight on that door. He had a shotgun, and they were both low health. So, again, well played from NIP. I think, you're exactly right throughout that. Lack of intel, lack of droning, lack of, knowledge of where players are. It's just leading Black Dragons to getting punished over and over again. I'd say it's something they've got to improve. It is something they've got to improve, but to be honest, they're looking to improve it over the rest of the game, not on layer, because they've got 1 attack left, so it's kind of too little too late now. NIP, they're going to be looking to close out a very clean 6-0 half. It's going to be that weapons site again, and they're going to be up on the top floor. 4 out of 5 of them held from the top floor. I commented last time how Black Dragons didn't really have the utility in order to plant without clearing that top floor, and I'm going to say the same again. They've got the Grim, they've got no smokes, they've got no sense. Ying has been banned. They have to clear this top floor or the plant ain't going down.
Ooh. So, I do like the line of saying they've got no sense.
I mean, if the cap fits in.
So, getting the wall open now, the Maverick. Just burning a couple of lines directly on the security itself. Obviously, as I said, we haven't really seen a huge amount of pressure on towards the side itself, but here's that vertical pressure you talked about, just the swing round. They've already lost Hornet, and there's the cover, though. Picked up 2, driven behind the mirror window. Looking for the swing round. There's almost the catch onto Rare, but Pino suffers just as much. Cons from the sky bridge. The rarely seen cross peak gets a punishment, and we're almost, and we are even, leveled once again. Rare and Pino both massively hurt. 2 versus 2. You know, if I'm going to talk about Wizard and accidentally curse him on the previous round, I'll do the same for Rare. Unfortunately, now he's been big here, driven the team in, taking that ace roll and saying, look, we ball, I'm driving us. They now have themselves a bit of focus down on towards the stairs itself, but a minute 10 here, Tim. And remember how this round sort of played out last time. They lost the kit in this position, and that being impacted off. It's just Wizard doing everything, or it wasn't even impacted, just shot potentially, but through the gate, gets 1. Wizard fights his way out, and you're thinking, okay, where's the pinch? They're just throwing themselves gifted on a platter to Wizards. And now Rare, all that's left in the middle of a pinch. NIP just playing this on contact has been perfect. At that point, Wizard was just fed up and done waiting. A flawless half, Tim.
Yep, some serious punishment doled out by NRP there, and it'd be easy to look at that round in isolation as a kill feed and say Black Dragons had a great start to that. They got themselves 5-3 up, but they didn't in reality. Yes, they were 5 versus 3 for a short amount of time, but the Grim was already down, and ultimately, when it went to 3 versus 3, their loss was far greater than NIP's loss. They'd lost the Grim and the Dorkaby, the 2 operators that you're going to look to power that execute. Your real powerhouse when it comes to getting that diffuser down. You're going to put a phone call in. You're going to send Grim Bees in. You're going to make it really difficult for the defenders to be able to move around or react to you putting a plant down. But they couldn't do that because they lost them both in those opening fights. And did they pick up the operators they needed to in return? No, they didn't. The smoke was still on the board and the warden was still on the board. So really, their loss was far greater when they came into that 3 versus 3 situation, and NIP were able to just lock it out beautifully with none other than the warden that Black Dragons hadn't managed to pick up. So whilst, yeah, it was a daring play by Rare, and it was a best foot forward for them, of course, but it just wasn't ever going to be enough realistically to clear out that top floor because they lost the 2 critical parts they needed to clear out the top floor.
So, when FaZe 7-0'd NIP, but, 10, 15 days ago, the second last play day of the league, it was a perfect defensive phase into a single attack. Are NIP about to dole out the same fate against Black Dragons? Different map, but very different NIP energy. Obviously, you may have noticed the audio dipped away after hearing a little bit of Portuguese. Things happen with teething issues. We are, I believe, sort of piggybacking off of the amazing Brazilian broadcast. So there's always moments where they'll do listen-ins and things like this, which we just don't understand. So as much as I could offer you insight on towards what they're saying, I'm
might not be accurate.
Really sorry. it won't be accurate. I would just be lying. But assume then, if there's any Portuguese speakers here that are for some reason with us and not with the brilliant Brazil stream, you can explain it in chat. There goes the first. Just piggybacking off the Monty either side of green, and I mean it's a bit chalk here, Tim.
It's not looking good. I think it's fair to say Fantasy comes in with a big double there, has got those track stingers down as well, so his job is done. He can now just play aggressively. But if you remember at the beginning of the game, I spoke about Fantasy and I said he's a player, if you can harness him, if you can put him on a little bit of a leash and stop him, you know, getting too wild, too crazy, then he's going to just do phenomenal things for you, and that's exactly what's happened. We'll put him in behind the Monte. His job then is clear. He can be aggressive, he can take the gunfights, but you're controlling when and where because he's doing it from behind the Monte. Great stuff. And manages, and this is what I'm talking about with Fantasy. Just that little notion of, you know what? I'm going to drop myself prone. Gets himself a third. Make it 4, Make it 4!
He has gotten 4 of his 5 kills. This round doesn't get the ace, but I was believing. I was there with him. At this point, it's, you know, roll on the lights, roll on the action. The perfect possible start there for an NIP that just looked indestructible.
Yeah, I thought Black Dragons were starting on the attack. It may have
Do
been,
we just have to
we'll get that double checked. It may well be that it was incorrect on the the map veto that we had. So we'll get that double check, but we will work on the assumption that the game is correct.
I mean, they are playing, so I think if it was wrong in the game, somebody would say something. Oh well, hey, listen. This is why we have Hopium. Now, you might be thinking, hey, maybe the analysts were wrong. They weren't. On our sheet, it was correct, and it was swapped over. That's fine. But I think it was because I had Hopium and belief, and so much belief that they swapped it. That is obviously not true. We don't have any control of this. I'm just trying to fill time. Black Dragons will start on their defense, Tim. That's much better news.
It is if you're a Black Dragons fan, given the way that Leia went. I think, yeah, a side swap is going to be, you know, just about perfect for them. I know they didn't win their defense. There we go. Getting aggressive. This is what we want to see from Black Dragons. Don't let NIP settle into this one. 7-0. They ran through it in quick time. Put them on the back foot here. Let them know that they're in for a game. It's not going to be so straightforward. And, you know, who better to do that with than Fantasy? Down to such low HP. Isn't going to be able to play aggressively now. He's also got both nades and stuns in pocket with playing on striker. So not something you want to be losing to soon. Plenty of utility there. Already down to 5 drones as well, 50 seconds in. So Black Dragons are already doing a better job than they were on there. There we go. Rare manages to find cons.
I mean, it's a strong opening. They get rid of 1. Fantasy's health as well. They almost had 2 from that sort of switch, that sort of moment. Imagine a 5 versus 3. What a strong, perfect start that would have been for Black Dragons. But I'm sure they'll be happy to get rid of the Lion, control that sort of play space, control the chance of the pressure. We've had a conversation recently about how that Pixel Shield has come back into a bit of fashion, come back into a bit of strength, and Rare is removed from a bit of strength, just drove their way in on towards Pillar. As I said, Information Games that is the true sort of king and queen here, and oh no, Muzi is also caught. So the sort of I'm not entirely sure what that is.
I don't think it's supposed to happen, if I'm honest, but we will see whether it's something that works itself out. For now, at least NIP have got themselves an advantage after taking Muzi down. 55 seconds left to go. They need to clear this pixel corner, though, realistically, because that is going to be the spot that stops them being able to push on into a default plant spot. So getting that cleared out is going to be big for them. 40 seconds left to go. Wizard is getting those Track Stingers down. Hornet manages to peek around and get a kill, but Makina has taken out elsewhere. 3 versus 2 now. Advantage NIP. If they can come in here after the start that Black Dragons had in this round and get the win, it's going to be a hammer blow to the hopes of Black Dragons, and it's looking like it could be the case. 20 seconds left to go. Flashtree on the Jaeger. Needs to hold on. Pokes his head out at the right time and manages to take one of them down. Wizard now.
Is Wizard the one who was stuck? Wizard's the one who was stuck.
I wasn't. Yeah.
What do we do here? Because
I wasn't sure if Wizard had become unstuck because the track stingers started getting deployed. But I assume as maybe just throwing them out. But we'll let the admins worry about it. Obviously, it depends how far into the round, and there's lots of complications there that it may well be, depending on what's already happened and things like that. So for the time being, Black Dragons 1-0 up. Still, I would say unconvincing though. Even short-handed, NIP were able to make a good run back at them, and it effectively came down to a 1v1 at the end. If we ignore that issue, it was 1v1 down there in bar. Flashtree manages to win it out on the Jaeger, but it really shouldn't have been that close for Black Dragons.
I don't know. It's really not my place or problem to raise these questions, and so I just I don't know. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to think about it, because if I think about it too long, too many things come into motion. I know a lot of other regions and a lot of other teams that the second they had an opportunity for a rehost would have called it or tried to. So I don't know. Just build diff. Build diff here. Build partially stuck. Black Dragons. They get that first round. They get a defense, and it was, as you said, for the swing and the merit, technically a 1 versus 1 at the end there. It was huge there, even without that other player. It was a 2 versus 1. So Flashtree was able to get themselves into those positions, put the 2 players down, keep themselves moving. But from this point on, they won't get the same sort of gift again.
No, I don't think they will. So Black Dragons, just as I said coming into it, need to be cautious that they're not letting NIP get those opening picks, not letting NIP get those numbers advantages, because they've shown even when they don't have them that they're still going to be in there and be competitive. So Black Dragons needing to make sure that they take every opportunity they get to put themselves on the front foot. For the time being, NIP just trying to soften up this defense by working from that top floor. Shield is going to go in. Cons takes a lot of damage there, just going in a little bit mistimed, a little bit early into those flames. Goes through the fire and flames, but does take a lot of damage in order to do so. Halfway through the round, NIP starting to take a little bit of map control, but Black Dragons have actually held them out for quite a while now.
Well, about over the half the time gone, they've been able to force some of the vertical control here, but the pressure is still able to feed its way back up. As I said, this map can be very awkward and intricate to keep a sort of watch. Even though it's generically, 2 staircases that run as the beating pulse, there are so many quick rotations you can make to put pressure onto them, draw attention towards them, and cut your way across them. You'll often see gridlock just because you get the biggest spread rather than the single shot air jabs, and it means that they have to make a lot of noise traversing what is a short distance. Sometimes they'll even just take the damage to cut their way through in the hope that they can make slightly less. 20 seconds gone, and they have some angles, some removals on towards Gadgetry. Be able to get rid of that Maestro cam, but with 40 seconds and a 5 versus 5 at this point, Black Dragons just waiting the time when they can snap the jaws shut. It seems like maybe chance at a hatch drop, just get some coverage. They're concerned about a C4 coming from underneath, but Makina is the player in the power position right now. If they do go for this hatch drop in the play, can just sort of swing around and maybe get a cheeky pick. Ooh.
It really felt for a minute we might see our first ever round that ended with all 10 players left alive, but a kill comes in either direction. NIP have left it too late here. They were no way going to be able to get that done. They've spent I don't know what they've been doing, to be honest. I was going to say they've spent most of the round doing, but then I realised that I really wasn't sure what it was. They'd taken a little bit of top floor control. They hadn't really softened up sight. They hadn't forced the defenders away. They hadn't cleared the utility that they needed to clear, really. So, yeah, I don't know what the plan was at 5v5 with 30 seconds left to go. Did they think they would just going to drop in and put a plant down? Or yeah, I'm not really sure, but NIP, serious stall-out territory for me there. Black Dragons managed to get the round. More solid from them as well, I think. So they're growing into this one with a couple of rounds under their belt now. 2-0, and they're going to take us down to Kitchen.
2-0, Black Dragons. You know, they've been able to get themselves into this position. They've been able to sort of drive. The back was obviously technically a 3 versus 1 into a round win by Flastry. Then that one was NIP. Just struggled, as you said. There was so much time that passed. Black Dragons didn't give them an engagement, and there was almost a level of suspicion about it. Everything was being checked and rechecked by NIP. They were trying to do sort of a step-by-step basis, but it came down to the minutiae of, okay, let's open this, roll a grenade, get the Maestro cam, fine. Let's do this, let's do this. Okay, we have 20 seconds left. What's our push again? Oh, we just have to try and send it now. And it's too little, too late for a team that's often very sort of driven behind the play of the kit. Still, I think they can try and pull things together here. The chance at the sense roll on towards, you know, a few positions, but what we've seen most notably is to cut off Christmas and VIP. They roll it down the hatch, make sure that that VIP player can't swing or doesn't know the right time to swing. It's not the easiest to line up.
In go the drones, 40 seconds in. I'm keeping a close eye on the drone economy. It was something that we spoke about for Black Dragons. I don't think it's been, you know, necessarily electric for NIP on the attack yet either. They have got 8 left alive a minute into the round, so much better this time. But again, it's not just about gathering the intel. We're going to be looking to see, you know, do they know what's going on, what needs to be cleared, where they're expecting defenders, of course, but it's what you do with it as well. Having players in position to be able to take those challenges, who do take those challenges and, you know, don't spend 2 minutes on the top floor waiting for that opportunity to push forward. So NIP need to be a little bit more aggressive this time out, get themselves down onto that kitchen level with a couple of players so that when this starts happening, these verticals start getting opened up, hatches start getting opened up, and defenders start moving. There's players there ready to punish them.
At this point, we still have not a huge amount of time, and every single player still standing. The pressure starts to become the idea of how do we actually stop the utility, right? As I said before, it's another bit of a hyper-focus, but look at just the positions Black Dragons are taking. They're still sort of free and comfortable to rotate around Bakery, to rotate around Wedding, to rotate around Bottom Red. They're not being forced out of any of these holds yet. And they're also not being forced into gunfights. They've opted to try and take one there, Flastry, but nothing has come on the end of it. More time has sort of passed away, and if you're just hoping for gadgetry, you still got 2 impacts and a C4, 2 pocket barbed wires that probably aren't going to come into play here from Rare. But nothing that's just going to lock you in on the drop down. Ready for the swing, not ready from it behind those. They scream their way in towards Wedding, try and cut their way right across the site itself. VIP starts to explode, but they have just absolutely closed down there. Let's get one for the road, but is this going to be a post-plant situation? No, because they can't last that long.
Bit better from NIP there, just managed to use their time, get a player into a position, they massage that space as much as they needed to be able to put the diffuser down. I was still a little bit concerned. We were 2 minutes 15 into the round before we got an opening kill there, and what that generally tells you is that the attack are playing quite passively. Of course, the more aggressive the attackers are, and to a degree the defenders, but I feel like that pace of entry is generally dictated more by the attackers. Are they putting themselves in positions where they will have gunfights? And yeah, 2 minutes 15 in just, you know, says that NIP are being pretty passive about this. They're wanting to establish control and verticals and work the defenders into bad positions before that explosive execution towards the end of the round. The problem with that is it puts a lot of pressure on those moments at the end of the round because you are dropping into a team of 5 players rather than 4 or 3, you know, having already got a couple of kills and taken away a little bit of that utility sometimes as well. So something that NIP just need to be cautious of, that they're not leaving everything to be done to the last 30 seconds.
2-1. They've been able to just get a bit of a shift there on towards the last one, and, well, how will they grow from this? There's always that sort of moment. There's a question, I guess, posed towards both teams, because Black Dragons have taken a sort of shake. However, they are still in an advantage. They are back towards sites. A 4-2 half isn't the craziest thing to sort of expect here on Cafe. And where we've seen this map itself fall over the past half a year or so is actually kind of balanced, roughly around 50% attack and win. So it's something where Black Dragons still have that into their favor. They're, as I said, back towards the pressure on this pixel position that has found itself a new life. See how long the double down of those sort of ADSs, the Wamai discs, how much utility that can eat. They've got a few frag grenades that they can try and throw, and the flashes to sort of cook it. And even if they want to roll roll a Thatcher and just cut it all in half. But Tim, I do also sit here and go, what year is this?
Yeah, I mean, it should be reasonably easy to clear pixel spot here because, you know, you quite rightly pick up. They don't necessarily need to do this from the window. Their nade goes in, bang, pixel spot should be cleared. They could have done that EMP from the roof as well, but didn't need to. They've got it in through there. No ADS or Magnet picks it. That would have been my concern, would have been an ADS picking up the EMP. But no, they've got it done. 5 versus 2 as Fantasy manager to pick up Flash Train. And we're only a minute 15 into the round. If you remember last time, what did I say? It was 2 minutes 15 before that entry kill came in. This time, NIP have recognised that. They've recognised they've been giving too much space to Black Dragons. They've got in there aggressively, took their opportunity. Fantasy gets a whole bunch of kills throughout that round, and NIP level things up 2-2. And the tide seems to be turning, and that is not a good thing for Black Dragons, being that they're on the defence. We spoke about them when we thought originally they were starting on the attack. We were quite negative about that and quite concerned about that. They need to rack as many rounds up as they can before they do end up on that attacking side.
So, 2-2, and with those two going away from them, I mean, you think about how the first round, strangely put out as it was a 1 versus 3 clutch. This could already be a 3-1 opening situation on their defense on Cafe, right? That could already be something in motion. It's not, so we have to realize, especially with how out of control that last round was, that momentum is super dangerous to try and sit in. Pressure of playing on LAN, the pressure of playing on stage is always different. Towards online, where you've got your sort of home comforts, and here, up against those historic players that you are on NIP, even with historic players of your own on your roster, makes things a bit spicy.
Yeah, then. Black Dragons' defences will continue. And we will see whether they... I think that, personally, I think they need a 4-2 half. I think if they don't get a 4-2 half now, they need the next 2 rounds. If they don't get that, then I think NIP win this in 2 maps. I can't see NIP coming onto the defensive Cafe, given what we saw from the... Unless Black Dragons bring something wildly different on the attack to what they did on later, I don't see them coming back from a 3-3, for example. I think that NIP will close that out reasonably easily. So, Black Dragons, time to prove me wrong, I guess. But first things first, getting yourself a couple of rounds now, back to back. They're starting in the kitchen for these last 2. We've got the 3rd shield taken out as well. I don't feel like shields have necessarily been that big a deal.
Not at all.
For NIP, if we look through, they played the Monty once. Other than that, there's been no other shield play. So, again, I just feel like maybe there's more value that they could have got.
It's a specific removal of it. It's like, you know, it's like how Canadian teams would always ban the same 2 operators every single time in the old ban system. Some teams just have preferences, and some teams build their strats around preferences, and their preferences are no shields, and NIP are like, no problem. They are more than happy to play against it. And in these, it's not truly a do or die because there's a lower bracket, but when things fall away at this stage, this early, this powerfully, this is the time when you can try to push the boat out without being in a do or die situation. This is the time where maybe you start to look at other bands instead and flirt with a new level of danger. Either way.
Just having a little look for that opener around White Stairs. Isn't going to be able to find it. And we'll now just go hell for leather straight on in. Obviously got the information. 7 drones left alive for NIP, so I would expect them to have plenty of knowledge of what is going on here. VIP, of course, Hornet is going to be the one to be cleared from there if they want to get in and look for a plant in the same spot that they used last time, which was in behind that bomb site, that bomb chassis, B-bomb chassis that's near Freezer. But they're going to need to... It's an interesting one. We've seen more and more teams doing this, playing with the Tubarão in this position in VIP without a deployable shield. And it definitely seems to... Obviously, the old setup was get a smoke in behind a deployable shield, so you've got utility there to keep them safe, but also utility that can directly stop that drop coming through, whereas these auto canisters don't really seem to do the job as well, and I'm just not sure it's as effective.
So once the lineup in this C4, there's the cover of the smoke. They're going to try and bait out that utility, but it hasn't quite come yet. There's the drop. There's the rotation of the planter, and now Cons is inside the site with a little bit of cover. Flastry is going to try and get the cross. The C4 catches the man behind the man, but at this point, well, there's Cons winning out against Flastry and Wizard winning out. It's a 3 versus 3, but is the Maestro cam why Cons doesn't feel safe planting? Yes, it is, as he has to drive in with the low health that he's on, gets it destroyed, but there's one just behind him as well, sitting, watching, and waiting for the screen to open. Gets the swing round. If they knew how low health Cons was, I think they would have just sent the Maestro cam, but now it's a 1 versus nobody. NIP backs against the wall, still find the drop, and after the timeout, they find success still.
That's great from NIP, isn't it? Cons just having the nerve to keep planting there. 2 Maestro cams overlooking. Like you say, if they knew just how low health Cons were, then Black Dragons surely just commit to getting those cameras open. Push at the same time so that the cover can't stay looking at the bubble and just get those. It would have needed literally probably 2 zaps to get the job done onto Cons. So unfortunate stuff for Black Dragons, but NIP thoroughly understanding where the pressure was going to come from, where the remaining Black Dragons players were, and that there was space for them to get that job done. So well played, NIP. They take their 3rd attack. It leaves us 3-2 overall, and I said it before going into that, I felt like Black Dragons needed the 2 rounds back-to-back to go 4-2 in this half. I'm starting to get a little bit concerned for Black Dragons. I think this one could be over in 2.
So now, with this, the swing round, as I said, it's a 50-50 map, generically, around the world. In terms of how it's been played, it's a map that Black Dragons have some sort of positioning on, but they are generically a better defensive team. If they cannot get themselves this 3rd round, I think all of those sort of heralded questions and problems and potentials of them starting on their attack are going to be something that shows up to haunt them once again. 3-2. At this point now, trying to just control the positioning as we fade a little bit of Portuguese away.
I think there's certainly going to be more and more frantic discussions going on the side of Black Dragons as this one goes on, because they are going to know how close they now stand to finding themselves on the way out of this and down towards that lower bracket. Cons working on the Grim for the time being. I think he's looking to try and move this position. We've spoke about the Pixel position. It's not for a top floor site. It is for a mid floor site this time, but still the point remains. NIP want to get in there. They want to do some verticality. They want control of that area to be able to support any plant attempts. So getting onto that white window is going to really help that. We saw the player just move away. Fantasy manages to pick up McKenna as well. Continued great play from Fantasy, and NIP get themselves an opener. It's 5 versus 4, a minute 20, so they do have time, but not all the time in the world.
That's it now. With that first body into their favor and Fantasy still alive, they lose Makino, who's obviously been so huge for the team in the previous. The roll in through the Brava, stealing all those gadgetries that could have been defining in previous rounds. Unfortunately, it's easier for us to know that based on the health that was left. They've got themselves an avenue of space, but remember how late the drop was here last time. This time, 50 seconds quicker and with a body for the trouble. Now, got out on the swing round. They've got themselves in towards the train room and all the way behind Dining, waiting for this player to just swing round. Got the first, almost got the second, but it is traded out. Muzi does get one on the back end, but 30 seconds, a 3 versus 2 as Wizards still on the ground at this point. Was not converted into a kill. A bit of a hold here on towards White Stairs. The plant is being pushed over. There's at least one. Watched and waited for his Hornet. Now all that's left in a post-plant 1 versus 4 in track stingers as well. Just brutal from NIP.
NIP go 4-2 in the first half and move on to the defence then. And it is looking bleak for the Black Dragons as it stands. They're going to need to come out strong, I think. Straight away, yeah, I'll say the same thing again. I said they needed 2 back-to-back rounds before. I think they need 2 back-to-back rounds now. Come out, get themselves 4-4. Send a message to NIP. We can attack. We are going to be attacking well on Cafe, but I'll be honest, I'd be very surprised to see it happen. I think NIP probably come out here. They know the value of round 7 and coming in and getting this one done. 5-2 on the scoreboard, then only 2 more needed. Black Dragons are in serious trouble, but we're going to have the bans coming in. NIP will take out the Monte. Probably going to be a double shield ban. I would expect to see the Blitz go next, and it's going to be Castle, maybe an Azami or a Mirror on the side of Black Dragons. We'll see who they opt for.
An Azami.
Ooh, Ying. Okay.
Yeah, the Ying and the Monte, I guess, you know, it gives an impression of how they think Black Dragons are going to approach this more than anything. As I said, the bans can be sort of based on the team. The Ying can have some great snappy moments on a site like this. If you're attacking the top floor, you're getting the Candelas in deep back towards the sort of, you know, eastern side, the cocktail bar. You can put quick pressure down on towards the ground floor site as well. It's just very useful behind teams that like to push, and we know NIP is a team that likes to set up and sort of sit and wait and have fights when they show up, and now they don't have to deal with that extra pressure. Azami, Castle, standard.
Keep an eye on the Echo throughout. Of course, we've seen some great value from Echo everywhere, really, but on Cafe particularly. There's lots of opportunities for those Yokai drones to actually get outside of the map and come back in, feeding that intel. They've got about 6 or 7 seconds once they go outside before they're deactivated. So you'll see them zipping out of drone holes, zipping under the double barricade door in Bakery, for example, out of reading door, just trying to see what's going on the roof, see what's going on those rappels, just get that entire picture. But we've also seen a lot of value from them when it comes to plant denial as well. I think we are just going to have a short tech pause here, and we'll get that resolved and get everybody back in as soon as possible. So maybe after all of that, we may not have an Echo, who knows, but we will get back in as quickly as we can.
Watch the Echo. Now watch them. Where do they go? This is a magic trick from Tim. I feel like you're a man who knows a magic trick or two.
Always got to know a magic trick or two, Em. How else do you impress people at parties?
That's entirely like,
you know?
I don't think you go far in your studies to be considered a magician. I don't think you'd want to be called a magician, but you definitely you've got a parlor trick. You've got something to show off.
I've got to say, I'm always impressed by good card magic. I always find like sleight of hand and good card magic very impressive.
Yeah. Oh, there was.
Me.
I mean, I can't remember if you were one of the people I made watch in our movie nights that we used to do when we were all back in the old EU studio in Paris. And I would put on movie nights with people. which included the card trick section. And it blows my mind every single time. It's like, it wasn't like a film specifically, it was a film of a stage show. Does that ring any bells? I don't just want to say the name, so I'm not paid to advertise. Who am I?
I don't think I've watched it with you on movie night, but I'm 99% certain that I've seen what you're talking about. Yes.
I definitely told a lot of people.
And it's extremely impressive. Yeah, it's very. I love. Like I say, I do love a magic trick. I do love a bit of card magic. Yeah, it's all fascinating stuff. I appreciate the time and the skill that goes into, the dedication that goes into being able to do things like that.
Yeah, you've got to learn this stuff. So, we'll hopefully be back in just a moment.
I wonder if Wizard knows any magic tricks.
There's always a part where I'm like, how do players get their name? How did you choose your pseudonym? Where is that based in?
Well, it's actually partly in a fascination with cards, and obviously the Ace of Spades sort of comes from there, and then a sort of separate fascination with geology. Geology rocks. We all know that, and. You're welcome. You can keep that one.
Yeah.
So Pyrite is sort of better known by most people as Fool's Gold. I'm looking around. It might sound like I'm looking around as I say this, because I am indeed looking around as I say this. Not that it's really going to help much in terms of the. There it is. I have a piece of Fool's Gold on my desk that my wife bought me. I know.
People are going to be desperate to see it when we come back to cams at some point.
Yeah. So. Maybe I can show that off a little show and tell. But at least me searching for it and talking about the origin so I studied geology for a while.
Oh wow!
So that's kind of where that comes from. It's not the she never watches my broadcasts. She supports me, and she loves to spend my earnings, but she doesn't watch the broadcast. So I can say this: it's not the best piece of Fool's Gold. It's not the best piece of Pyrite that she could have bought me. So it's not probably that clear for me to show on broadcast. I can certainly try, but it'll just look like a twinkly rock, because it's like a rock with lots of little pieces of gold in there. Rather than you can get some really nice big like cubes of it that are like really cleaned up and stuff. And it's just a really nice mineral. It fascinates me. And I'm a bit like Fool's Gold, I think. Especially in the rank stat, you look and you think, this guy's going to know what he's doing. And then it turns out that I don't.
Listen, you know what your role is in the ranked stack. It's to be traded out by Fresh and Jackers.
I'm the bait.
You are the bait. We are back in, and 4-2, if you missed the half, we have it, and we do still have an echo, so you're lucky. You can go back to making whatever point it was you're making about the echo.
Well, they're just so useful on any map, but we've seen some huge moments with those yokai drones on Cafe in particular, particularly down in the base, down in Kitchen really. We've seen some really big plant denial, but there'll be plenty of value. Like I say, I think I'm interested to see. I'm going to try and keep an eye on where it's difficult sometimes to track exactly where the yokais are, but I'm going to try and keep an eye on it because... Okay, so we've got one inside of Cigar. We'll see whether the other one turns up. I'm kind of expecting one to be used on that external roll a little bit. Get that intel. Which rappels are they on? Where is the danger? Are they on East Rappel? Are they on White Corridor Rappel? Are they on Piano Rappel, Stage, Small Bar? And just get that intel that you need.
So, how quick will the second half of this game go? Or can Black Dragons find something they could not at all on the previous map? Attacking round win. It is all pretty much squared away at this point with the little reset between it, but the comparison last time, so Flash Street and Hornet, between the pair of them, were 1 and 14 on the last map. At this point, coming into it. Flastry has got themselves 3-4, Hornet 3-6. They have shown up a lot more, which is, I think, is a big boon, which is something that the players can sort of drive behind. Yes, the team is a bit on the back foot, but all of them have been able to get themselves involved in the game. And as Hates gets dropped and picked back up by themselves, and Flastry gets cons, just saw rid of that grenade at the last second. Well, they're back in, and now they know that somebody is back in towards this corner as well.
How on earth is he still in that corner? That is absolutely unbelievable. The punishment he has been put through, and he's still kept himself alive in there. Pino manages to take down Machina, and this is a problem that Black Dragons have got. They get themselves into advantageous positions in terms of man count, in terms of control. They've cleared out Pixel Corner. They've got themselves a kill. They're getting things moving, but then they allow NIP back in, and NIP do a very good job of walking through that door once it's left open. But Rare is going to find Fantasy. This could be an opening attack for Black Dragons. If you remember, I said they needed round 7 and 8, level things up 4-4, guarantee themselves that they can be looking towards that overtime, but they've still got it to do. 1 versus 2. Can they get this one over the line?
I mean, they're trying to drive it around. Pino's doing his best, but Muzi down on the ground and ready to pop. But that secondary was more than able. Just push that in. They put that difference towards the task. They're able to get themselves this first attack round of the day for them on the second map and bring themselves within touching distance of NIP. So, where can they go from here? And can they sort of keep that energy? As I said, it's great to have these players start to find themselves firing on all cylinders there, and look at the difference one of them was able to make. Flastry driving in, getting that opening kill, putting the pressure on, getting a second. It's just a different face for him in this map so far. The journey is far from over.
Definitely better from Black Dragons. Just having a look through, there's only 1 round so far on Cafe that hasn't gone in the direction of the opening kill, and that was back in round 5 where Black Dragons got the opener, Muzi got it, and then NIP was still able to win the round. But other than that, every round winner has been the team that has got the opening kill. Flastry, as you said last time, with that bit of aggression, got in there and got that advantage for Black Dragons. So again, here in round 8, I wanted to see them win 2 rounds back to back, so let's have 2 entries back to back. You've got a Blackbeard on side. Get in there, get up in their faces and win that opening fight.
Gotta love that new skin. I am a full simp for those kind of skins. Anyway, unrelated.
I purchased immediately, I will say that.
So did I. Just didn't even put the pressure on, and now they remove some of the utility here. The Kaid Claw to try and bait out the electrics there. A nice play, but none of the Selmas are there. Don't think they meant for that to happen. And that's an easy way of getting it done. Tried to go for the trick shot. Full dedication.
Still holding on here, NIP, in behind Bakery counter. Again, they're in good positions, really. The verticality is not going to bother them too much at the minute until Black Dragons are able to get kind of deep into dining. They need to be opening up near the hatch, near the dining table, near the fireplace. That's what's going to start these NIP defenders in moving, but they do have plenty of time left to do that. However, they are really shaping up towards this Bakery push, and they're going to be coming up against 2 of the NIP defenders in there, looking to support each other. 1 in behind the counter and 1 inside of prep, so it's not going to be a walk in the park for them. It's Wizard and Pino that they will have to make their way through.
I really love how the Kaid is playing this extension as well. Obviously, they've got a very aggressive extension in towards the Bakery. They're not handing over the territory. The Kaid Claw is on the single wall, protecting the player behind the Bakery itself, and then Pino also kept on juggling the Claw either side of the wall, so they couldn't get rid of it with a grenade. And they've baited both of those out now from the Blackbeard, who just has to leave. Because without that prep wall open, those players can still play aggressive, and okay, fine, that's a bit of a missed moment. They just hopped in into wetting and gunned down the player without any reaction from either the Malusi. They need somebody to now support them because they are entirely stuck, as Hades is still down at this point. They're caught either side, and for all the compliments sort of paid with how lot they sort of wasted time on it, now they've handed those kills. Pino gets one, but at this point, with only one down, 3 versus 1. Ooh, and a scuffy fight there. I think started great for NIP, but as soon as that Blackbeard found that sort of route in, they didn't really react as they should have.
Well, where have this Black Dragons been? Get in there, get aggressive, find the kills, get themselves 2 rounds in a row on attack, the side that we were worried about, and get themselves leveled up. Right now, things are starting to look pretty tough for NIP. If they want to avoid overtime, if they want to get themselves, this one done inside of 2 maps, they need to be winning the next 4 rounds, basically. And then that's going to give them an opportunity to, get in there and get close as well. 3 rounds, to get the win. But they can only... there's only 4 rounds to go, so they've kind of got to be careful, that they don't allow too much of this to run away from them. One more round for Black Dragons, and you're thinking, NIP then need 3 unanswered on the defence. You need an entire rotation, and I'm not surprised to see the tactical timeout come in.
I mean, are the wheels fully off? Not really, but they're just not really focusing on the game. Maybe it was the success of the first map sort of got them a bit, I'm not going to say full of themselves, but they're a bit too cavalier, a bit too chill about everything that was happening there. And I think from this point onwards, the same way they sort of started dropping 2 rounds at the start of this game, it's then just a chance for them to build back up. We know what the capabilities are. We know what they are going to try and drive themselves into. Still with the echoes, still with these positions, they've still got a similar lineup to the last time they were here across the top floor. If not, yeah, the only change out is they brought the Warden in to try and slow things down instead of the Mozzie to try and slow down the drone game. But at that point, how much of that was the reason things fell apart? It was a lot of gambling on risky positions. It came down to a 1 versus 2 that they couldn't quite close out, but either way, back in this position. The thing about playing this position, right, as Hates, is we talked about it before, but they had all the WMI discs and all the ADSs. None of that in the pockets of NIP. So I'm sort of here like, why?
Well, we will see if they can answer that question, and we'll see if they can give us the answer to why. In this one, Nitro goes out onto the window frame, does the job. Fantasy manages to pick up Hornet Rare, does get a trade for Hits, who was able to pick Machina up himself. Fantasy seriously low health on the Warden, not really where you want that operator to be, but 4 versus 3 is at least a reasonable advantage for them. As I said, NIP, 3 rounds to find before Black Dragons find themselves 2. That's the reality that they now face if they want to get this one won inside of 2 without needing overtime. And what better time to start winning rounds than exactly now. 1 minute 40 left on the clock. Opening kill this time went to NIP. Hates picked that up, and given the trend that I picked up on previously, teams do have a history in this one of winning when they get that entry kill. Will Black Dragons be able to? I like that. I was talking about that external use of the Yokais previously, and Black Dragons well aware of that possibility and take out one of those really valuable cams.
Without the line, without the sledge, and without the chance at rolling those grenades, those power positions are a little bit better, but we saw a sneak through. Last time net them pretty solid results. Fantasy seems to be just drifting around trying to find a fight. Full send from Muzi was just closed down. Wizard gets another, leaving just Flastry alone. Well, the timeout has gotten them into a 4 versus 1. And they're still just sending it. And I mean, credit to him for finding one and almost putting the pressure onto the second. At the same time, they sort of hit a bit of a brick wall there.
Yeah, I think that could be a tough one for Black Dragons now. A couple of rounds back to back, but it's NIP who then take the next one, and you start feeling, does that build them a little bit of momentum on defence? They've got their next ban coming in as well, and they can do that now reactively based on what they've seen previously. Going to take the Brava away. The Valkyrie does get taken, which I think is a good counter ban from Black Dragons. They might not have expected the Brava coming along necessarily, but it will give an opportunity, to see something like the Maestro maybe. We're not going to see it from NIP yet, but we've already seen a bit of value from that operator. I think can be really valuable when combined with Echo sometimes. So much intel, so much denial available from those two. See whether NIP lean into that Brava ban even more, but already we're seeing plenty of value there. Echo, Malusi, Arune, Mute, all things that could be dealt with by those Brava drones. Bulletproof cam as well. So NIP making sure that they squeeze every last drop of value out of that ban.
So, from this point onwards, can Black Dragons do what they weren't really able to do on the first half and stop NIP building momentum, building in towards a game, building in towards a 2-0 here? They've done great work to come after, the sort of 4-2 down position, coming in towards their attack and getting two pretty decent round wins. But at this point here, it's also that pressure of just how much of it is the steam, how much of it is that fuel that keeps driving the team, keeps pushing them forward and forward.
Reloading.
Obviously, the team that can sort of get themselves locked in here is no easy game to follow through. The winner of this goes on to face FaZe, but then the other side is face W7M. So, how would you rather go up against it? Would you rather
poison, isn't it?
Yeah,
really,
to be shot or also to be shot?
Because either way, it's gonna happen. Black Dragons doing a better job with their intel. 6 drones left alive. 5 drones left, maybe less of a good job. Just before I was about to say that, it was 7, and then we saw them lose 2 in quick succession. Nitro goes out and does do some damage to Machina as well. So NIP certainly doing a reasonable job at the minute of bullying here, of keeping themselves with a bit of power up on that top floor. Just gonna have Black Dragons working mostly from the outside at the minute. They've got 2 inside of reading room for the time being. They do manage to get the entry onto Fantasy as well, and they just need to get a few more bodies inside of the map to support those 2 that have already got themselves established.
Oh, this is such a good start, a good lead, and finding another. Background, Pino, he's done this a couple of times, but there's Hate getting that cross angle by just aggressively stepping back in, and Wizard gets one more, and it's all just falling apart here, Tim. I was gonna say Pino's good at getting one, but Black Dragons were quite good at pulling it back after, but with all that support structure around him, able to just pull and piece and put it to bed. NIP... Another 2 in a row now, and now they sit in that very scary position of pushing this one over the edge. 6-4. It is not a million miles away for Black Dragons. They're now pushing on towards the kitchen site. They've been able to take this one before, some from heroic Blackbeard work. That is still a potential option on the table, but it doesn't seem like they want to go with it. They might change though. There's always time, obviously.
I think the Brava ban has done some favours in that last round for NIP. We saw even at the end there the Banshees and the effect they were having. So much gadgetry that Black Dragons were stacked up against and kind of struggling to deal with. The laser gates needed burning out, the Banshees needed dealing with. There was just so much there. The mute jammers as well, which I think played a big part in that sort of mid-round flourish of drone killing that NIP were able to do. And again, just restricting that information, that intel to Black Dragons. So tough one for them, and really, like I said, when NIP won that 5th one, it felt like they had a little bit of momentum. They've carried that through, got the 6th. Can we see them not getting a single defense here for the next 2 rounds? I don't think so.
So I sort of complimented how good they were at wasting time here at first. Playing against the Thatcher, it might not be the biggest problem when you can sort of get the deploy and force it in. And just try and get those Selmas on towards it and hope that they can't swing out to shoot them off before the claw can activate, but oh, how much support is going to be sort of dedicated towards it. They've otherwise kept themselves quite mobile. It's a very open site here, and they have 2 more reinforcements. You can often have teams will sort of pull back, reinforce that other wall, depending on where the pressure is, or maybe try and get themselves some support elsewhere. This is where they should be pulling back and getting that reinforcement done. Instead, they're seemingly wanting to dedicate. Will this be a bit of a downfall? Because it just keeps a very open front for the site now, and at this point going for it, it's probably going to be too dangerous.
It's become a tricky position for Wizard to try and hold on in behind that bakery counter as well. Needs some support, which he's currently getting from Pino on the Cave. Nitro goes out. Interesting use of it, or attempted use. It will be shot out, and that just shows the value that they were placing in that prep wall, willing to dump a Nitro out there to keep it intact. That's going to mean that Wizard is out in the cold here, all alone. Black Dragons are building this well, but hits, gets the kill onto Machina elsewhere, and that could really distract Black Dragons from what they were doing, and it does. Wizard manages to pick up the kill onto Rare. That's the Blackbeard gone. Manages to avoid the nade as well. Wizard has done unreal work behind this bakery counter.
Maybe I should just not have said anything, not doubted him. He didn't need to retreat. No, because he needed this game to be done. At this point, he's been massive, and Flastery has had some moments, but at the end of what has been a long showdown with 50 seconds and a lot of time, but also 2 smoke canisters, 4 players in a C4 and no kit and no health. I mean, they're just... If he steps into a last smoke canister, which is thrown and now popped, it's over at this point, and... You know, you have to give credit to NIP. We can talk about how Black Dragons have struggled. It's not the end of the road for them. It's obviously a double elim. They will, at least, I think, still have a 5th and 6th, but I don't know if that's going to be played on stream at this point. That is how things roll out. Phenomenal sort of play there from NIP.